As we gear up for the election in just 4 days, the coronavirus pandemic takes center stage on the minds of American voters and in the final campaign pushes of both President Trump and former Vice President Joe Biden. To discuss, let's bring in Mychal Wilson, attorney and host of The Whistleblower with Mychal Wilson. Mychal, welcome to the show. The president campaigning just this week in Arizona, claiming that the coronavirus is under control. Is this the last effort to promote the idea that the coronavirus is turning a corner, going to work with last-minute voters?
Yeah, it's an effort to quell the fears of Americans, I would say, a last-ditch effort. Obviously, the coronavirus is not under control, just not here in the United States, but in Europe, where you're having massive spikes now, especially in Sweden, which appear to have it under control.
Cheddar's own Brad Smith yesterday interviewed Trump campaign senior advisor Steve Cortez, who continues to call the coronavirus the Chinese virus. Just take a listen. I want to get your opinion on the other side.
Steve, I'd appreciate for the rest of the segment if we could stay away from any xenophobic statements like China virus. Of course, we've been trying to destigmatize
There's nothing
this virus.
xenophobic about describing where a virus came from. Ebola is named after a river. The German measles are obviously named after Germany.
Mychal, I have to ask, why does the Trump administration insist on referring to the coronavirus in this way?
I think it's part of Trump's, again, part of his method of targeting ethnic group as an excuse here. I mean, yeah, we do have the German measles, but no one said smallpox or chickenpox is the European virus. No one's ever said that. The Ebola virus, no one said that it's the African virus. So I think it does a little bit of injustice here because it's very discriminatory, I think. Yeah, it may have risen out of China, but it's not a Chinese virus. Obviously, it's affected whites, blacks, Hispanics, everyone.
Do you think this is just a way of deflecting the blame for a lackluster U.S. response?
Yeah, and you know, the U.S. did have a response. There was a federal playbook, pandemic playbook, that President Obama put into play to the Trump administration. That was disregarded, and here we are today. You know, and let's concentrate on this right here. The COVID virus is not that bad of a virus. I mean, imagine if this was the Ebola virus or another SARS virus. I mean, I think this is like the tip of the iceberg of what's to come. And we, whoever, if it's Trump or if it's Biden, we do need a federal pandemic playbook to go by in the future.
Let's talk. Sure. Let's talk about Joe Biden. He's telling supporters he will start on day one with his coronavirus response, with his administration, of course. What will that really look like? And by then, Mychal, do you think it will be too late?
No, I think it's going to look kind of like President Obama, where President Obama inherited the economic recession from the former President Bush administration. So I think we have to, when Biden gets in office, we have to deal with COVID, we have to deal with the economy, and then we also have to deal with healing and uniting America. Whether you're a Democrat, you know, I'm a Democrat, or whether you're a Republican, I have friends who are Republicans, we are all Americans, and that's what we fight for. We're Americans, and that's what we have to focus on.
Mychal, I don't have to tell you about all the misinformation out there. I do want to bring up another case of that with the president's testing czar contradicting claims from the president himself that case numbers are rising because of increased testing. How much does this undermine what the president is trying to tell the public?
Well, again, it goes back to the lack of transparency. We all know that the testing has really nothing to do with it. I mean, if you look around the world, again, Sweden, Europe, everyone's spiking up again, just as Fauci had predicted. The second wave is coming. It's wintertime. And, you know, here in California, it's going to be kind of hard because people don't have the beach to go to now. The weather has changed, so no one's going to want to go to the beach in 50-degree weather to get out of the heat. So I think you're going to see a lot more depression. You're going to see other mental illnesses come into play now.
Let's say Joe Biden does win the election come Tuesday or soon after. There will be a transition time of several months. So who will be in charge of rolling out vaccines during that critical time?
Well, so the Trump administration is technically still in charge. But, you know, there's a couple things right here. Is Mitch McConnell adjourned the Senate, which means that there's no more stimulus money coming from people who need it right now. Part of that was a play for him, maybe to do kind of what happened to Obama. He's kind of sinking, maybe tanking the economy. So when the economy goes really bad again next year, he can say, oh, it's Democrats' fault. The other thing is Mitch McConnell may be using it as leverage, depending on how the elections turn out. You know, who's controlling the House, who's controlling the Senate, and who is our president. And so that's his little arrow he has in his quiver.
Our senior editor, Carla Versano, made a really good point a few moments ago. The fear is really lacking a national framework here. But I do want to ask you about the role of states. States need billions of dollars to distribute this vaccine. They say they don't have the money. So what are states responsible for, especially when they're told to prep for a vaccine in November? Have they done that? Where are we there?
Well, again, that was part of Trump's plan right here. Listen, we need a federal pandemic playbook, and we don't really have one. And by Trump parlaying it to the states, okay, it's come down to, okay, blue states versus red states, and who's got COVID, who doesn't have COVID. And it's going to affect the election because, you know, certain states, there's a large amount of mail-in votes, ballots. And so I think that's a way for maybe Trump to contest the election. You know, states have their own plans, but there still needs to be a federal guideline here because it's the feds who actually can disperse that money and help the states.
With all the misinformation out there, especially a lot of it falling within political lines, as we're going to the election, Mychal, and then going into the new year, possibly a transition when it comes to office, what is your fear?
I would say one is I'm a whistleblower attorney. In fact, we just had conversations the other day. You know, I'm in public partnership with the DOJ. So one of the fears is $2.6 billion was thrown out there. There are bad actors out there. This is taxpayers' money. Where did this money go to? We all know about the famous Lamborghini guy who took the PP money and bought a Lamborghini. There's actually been an increase in exotic cars being purchased with this money right now. So I think that's one thing because it's $2.6 billion of American taxpayers' money that's affected the economy right now. So I think the biggest thing is get the economy going again, coupled with a pandemic plan for for the COVID-19.
Great talking to you. Great insight. Mychal Wilson, attorney and host of The Whistleblower with Mychal Wilson. Thank you again for your time.